Okay, so it's time for a membrane change. So we're going to start with removing the clamps of the RO caps. If the bolts are silver, you'll need a 14mm wrench and either a drill or an adjustable for the other end. Both of these are size 14. If your bolts are slightly bluish in tint, you'll need a size 13mm wrench. If you have an adjustable wrench, you'll be ready for any condition. So with the drill handy, we'll start by loosening one end of the cap. Once it's loosened up, you can actually loosen with your fingers. Attach the nut to the bolt so you don't lose it, and simply let it sit on the frame. We'll do the same on this side. Next, we're going to remove the caps from the steel housing. I should mention that these caps will be difficult for removal, especially if it's your first membrane change. So it's important to have some sort of leverage. A flathead, a large flathead would be sufficient. And a rubber mallet. So you'll notice these caps have a lip here. And you'll be able to fit a flathead safely without damaging any aspect of the system. Give yourself some leverage, and you want to give yourself a couple taps. Now note, I'm standing on the system. Gives yourself a little bit more security. So we're gonna pop the cap up until you start noticing a little lip between the plastic and the metal. And when you have enough, like a paint can, we're gonna open it up. And then as such, the cap will be free and you'll be able to see the membrane. We'll do the same on this side. Now on occasion, when removing the cap, you might notice that the membrane will rise with it. If that is the case, at the bottom half of this plastic cap, you'll be able to reach your flathead between and separate the membrane from the inside of the cap. In this particular case, we didn't have to do that. Next, it's important to have either channel locks or pliers for extra grip to safely remove the housing. So you'll notice the membranes have a spot here that you can grab with pliers. So I'm going to put my pliers specifically here. I'm going to stand on the system for extra support, and I'm going to lift up. Once it's dislodged, you'll be able to remove the membrane from the housing. It will drip. Do the same here. Once the membranes are removed, you'll notice there's residual water at the bottom of the housings. I recommend dumping this water before installing your new membranes. So for the installation of your membrane, we're going to take a look at the membrane real quick. This is a pre-saturated membrane, so it's a little wet. You'll notice one end has brine seal versus the other end has no seal, meaning that the RO membrane is intended to have flow in one direction, and it has a proper way to be installed. You want to make sure that this ring gets lubricated with the magic lube provided in your kit before installation. I'm going to go ahead, take a little bit, and just around the ring. This will allow for a better seal and better performance. Now to install the membrane, again, you want to make sure the brine seal is on top. You'll line up the membrane with the housing. Lower it a little, you don't want to throw it in. Give it a little spin and let it settle. We'll do the same with the other membrane. Line it up with the housing, give it a spin, and there we have it. So now you'll take your caps. Now you'll want to align the center cap here with the nipple of the membrane housing. You'll notice O-rings on the center of this hole here. It is also important to add a little lubrication to these O-rings too. It just allows a better seal so that none of the pure water escapes and mixes with the dirty water. Simply take a little bit of lube, line it up with the center, and now you'll be able to reinstall the cap to the housing. Simply press down. It may be difficult, just give it a little push. And you'll want to see the cap reach the end of the steel housing. So do that to the other side real quick. Wow. You may find that you need a little extra force to force the cap down. That is fine. A little bit of elbow grease, and now the caps are installed. But we are not done. Never forget to put your clamps back on. These are pressurized housings. Second pressure enters the system and no clamp is present, you will see damage or possible injury. So we'll go ahead and take our clamp, and you'll want to wrap around the plastic end and the steel end of the housing that is shaped for this end of the cap. So we'll simply install like that. And we'll just leave it hand tight and get the other side set. So once you see that the clamps are where they should be, in between the plastic and the steel, now time to tighten the clamps. We'll tighten them as far as we can. If you get them to touch, that is optimal. However, a millimeter's worth of space isn't the end of the world. Now, once your membranes are installed and your clamps are reattached, you're ready to resaturate your system. Just like your first initial setup, you'll want to run water through your system for about 10 minutes, bleed out all that air and excess, and then let it saturate for 12 to 24 hours so you can get back up and running at the most optimal performance rate.